Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful. Guys, today I'm going to explain you about trigonometric functions. This trigonometric function plays a very important role in calculus, right? So you will see a lot of questions related to trigonometric functions, and you will see they will ask you what is the domain of such trigonometric functions, right? So without having the knowledge of trigonometric functions, you are not able to solve how to find the domain of such functions, right? So I'm going to explain you every function in deep, okay? So now I'm going to explain you about the first trigonometric function, about a sine theta, right? Okay, so this is trigonometric functions, trigonometric function, right? So trigonometric function, basically these functions are periodic, right? These are periodic functions. Actually in trigonometry we have 6 functions: sine, cosine, tan, cot, sec and cosec, right? But I will explain you each function in each lecture, okay, so that you can understand the functions well, right? So I'm going to tell you about the first function, about a sine. Y is equal to sine x. This is very important and you must know about sine x, right? This is a trigonometric function. This is the, what is a trigonometric function? These are the periodic functions, mean it will repeat its motions again and again after a specific interval of time, right? So you will see the trigonometric function as sine x, right? The function fx, which is equal to sine x. And here what you must know about sine x, which is very important. I'm going to explain you something. For example, the domain, the range, how to draw the graphs, what are the periods, increasing, decreasing, when and what interval of time the function has the positive area, what interval of time it has negative areas, what are the zeros, right? I can give you a lot of things, a lot of explanation in trigonometric function. So you must know all these things very well, inshallah. So first of all, I want to tell you about the graph, which is very important, the graph of sine x. The graph of sine x. So you can see this is my x-axis, this is x prime axis, means x-axis, this is y, and this is what y prime, right? Okay, so you can say okay, and so on. This is plus 1, and say this is minus 1, and so on. Okay, you will see here this is what 2 pi, and this is what 0, means it will start from the origin from 0 and it will end at 2 pi, right? This is one period. You can say this is one period. Okay, after 2 pi it has the same structure, the same graph from 2 pi to 4 pi, right? So you will see the same thing. Means, for example, this is pi, this is 2 pi. So this area you can say this is positive area and this is, for example, negative area, right? So you will see the same thing, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, and so on. And here also negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive. These are the graph of what? Sin x. Okay, so you must know about the properties, the feature of sin x from 0 to 2 pi. If you understand the feature of sin x from 0 to 2 pi, you will see the same features when we continue the graph of sin x. The same thing, because it has a periodic functions, right? Periodic function. What is the meaning of the periodic function? Means after 2 pi it has the same feature as it has from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, so this is very important. You must know about the positive and negative. This is the simple, the parent function of trigonometric function, which is sin x. And here we are going to explain you some important points. You must know about it. First of all, I want to tell you this is function. Why it is called trigonometric functions? Why it is a trigonometric functions? Why you can say this is trigonometric functions? Because if you draw any vertical line, right? If you draw any vertical line, for example, anywhere, if you draw any vertical line, you have only one intersection point. So when you see one intersection point, we can say that this is what? A trigonometric functions. This is a trigonometric functions. Trigonometric. Okay, this is trigonometric function. Trigonometric function means sine function. Okay, so this is what? A sine function. We can say that trigonometric are the functions. Why? Because when we draw any vertical line, we find there is one intersection from the line and the graph, then we can say that trigonometrics are the functions, right? Okay. Second point we have to discuss about, which is domain. This is very important because we will solve all the questions. Domain. What is the domain of the sine, right? So if you have sine x, right, and here you can see this x. This x is a real number, right? From minus infinity to positive infinity. Again, this is x, right? This is the real number. Here you can put from minus infinity to positive infinity, right? So if you give any value of x, you will see y always exists. You cannot see that the sine function has a hole or the it's a break point. No, it is continuous function. If it is started, then it will never stop. You will see it's continue, right? So we can say the domain of the sine theta is a real number. It's a real number. Means for each and every value of x, the function exists. As I told you in my previous lectures, go there and find out what is the meaning of what? A domain, right? So the domain of the sine is real number. Now we will move to we have a point which is called range. This is also very important. Range is very important in sine, right? So what is the range here? Here, if you put any value of x from minus infinity to positive infinity, right? Any value of x from minus infinity to positive infinity, you will see the y has from the function value, the sine value is always from minus 1 to plus 1. So you will see the maximum value is plus 1 and the minimum value is minus 1. Means the sine oscillates always between minus 1 to 1, right? So the value of the sine is always minus 1 to 1. So you can say the range is from minus 1 to 1. Okay, I'm going to use the close bracket here. So you can see, you will see the value from minus 1 to 1, or you can say, I'm going to use this bracket, minus 1 to 1. Means you cannot say that the value of the sine is 1.1. Okay, you will not see that if, for example, if sine x is equal to 1.1. So it is impossible. It is impossible. Why? Because no value of x, if you plug in here, you can get 1.1. There is no value from minus infinity to positive infinity. If you are going to plug in here, you can get 1.1. Why? Because the maximum value of the sine attains only 1, right? So this is wrong, and okay, you will find this is wrong. So the range is minus 1 to 1. The domain is what? Real number. These two are very, very, very important point of this one, right? Okay, and one more thing. For example, here if you see the domain and range, and then I can explain you here. If I'm going to ask you, can you tell me what are the intervals where the function has positive values only, right? So you can say normally from 0 to pi, you can see we have what? The function, the sign is always positive from 0 to. So we can say fx means sin x is what? Sin x is what? This sin x is positive. You can say this value is positive. If x is what? Sin x is what? Greater than 0, right? If sin x, this value is always what? Positive. When the interval is from 0 to pi, means if the value is what? If x belongs to what? 0 to pi, right? Okay, you will see the value of sin x is always positive. And in the same way, just add 2 and pi. So you can see when again it has 2 pi to 3 pi, you will see the positive area. In the same way, continue. Okay, so this is just, I'm going to tell you, I'm explaining only when in one period. Okay, I'm talking about in one period only. In one period. In period 2 pi. In period 2 pi, right? So it's not a stop at 2 pi, it's continue. So whenever you see the graph is up between two intervals, you can say the graph has the positive value. So here, if we talk about from 0 to 2 pi, sine has one time what? Positive from 0 to pi. And the same thing if you say the sine is less than 0 means this is this value. Can you see? The sine has negative value. The sine has the negative value if if the x belongs to what? From pi to 2 pi. This is pi to 2 pi. So when the value of x is from pi to 2 pi, you will find sine always what? Less than 0, but in the one period. I'm giving you the example in one period. Okay, the same thing you will see in another when the graph is continue, right? So I cannot explain you everything. I have just taken one period from 0 to 2 pi, and here I'm going to tell you one positive, one negative. If you continue, you will find the same structure: positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, right? Okay. And if I say on which values from 0 to 2 pi sin x is 0, you can say here, and here sin is 0. Here if you say about 0, and here if you say about what? Sin is 0, right? So we can say sin x. The third point, you can say the sin x is equal to 0. You can say, so when if x is equal to what? You can say x is equal to 0, or you can say x is equal to pi, and x is equal to what? 2 pi. In the same way, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi, minus 2 pi. Okay, I'm not going to tell you for all the interval. I have just taken one example. In one period, from 0 to 2 pi, you can see here, 0 and pi and 2 pi, the function has 0 values, right? I can give you one example if you want to know the whole structure where the function has 0, or where the function has positive value, or where you will see the function has the negative value. We have a formula, and we will solve, when we solve the question, you will see that, right? So here, this is also called zeros, okay? So this intersection point, you can say this is what? A zeros, right? So here I'm going to write down to calculate. I'm going to give you one example, one formula, okay? Just put it there, and you can find out where the value of sin x is 0, okay? So I'm going to explain you here. Note, okay? For example, if sin x is equal to sin alpha, right? This x we have to find, right? This alpha which is given, when you know about it from 0 to 2 pi, okay? If you know just one value, it's enough. And then using the formula, you can tell any value of x, right? So sin x is equal to sin alpha, then x is equal to n pi plus minus 1 power n alpha. This is the formula, okay? Where n belongs to integers. Why I said integers? Because integers has positive integers or negative integers, right? and integers included 0, right? So here you can put what? N is equal to 1, n is equal to 2, n is equal to 3, n is equal to 4, and so on. In the same way, you can just put it what? N is equal to -1, n is equal to -2, n is equal to -3. Okay, because here n is integers, right? Okay, and one more thing here, you can see here we have -1 power n, right? So as you know, if n is what? Even number. If n is even, like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, okay, you can say -1 power n is positive values. It always gives you the positive values, right? Okay, it's always positive. So the formula is what? N pi plus alpha. Okay, and if n is what? Odd number, you can say n is equal to what? Odd number, right? So you can say -1 power n is always negative. So you can say this number will be negative. So the formula negative, positive, negative. So n pi minus alpha. So this is the formula, and alpha that you know. And I told you, I explained everything, and by that you can find all the values of x. Okay, I'm going to give you one example so that you can understand. Okay. Okay. For example, if you want to know about 0, right? Okay, if I have a question, for example, sine x. Now I'm not talking about just one period, right? I'm talking about the whole graph of sine, where what value of x I plug in and the function has 0 values, right? Or you can say function has 1/2, or function has 1/√2, or function has 1, whatever. So I'm going to give you one example. For example, you have sine x which is for example, you want to know about 0, right? So sine x is equal to 0. Now I'm not talking about in one period, I'm talking about general, right? So there will be many value of x. I just plug in here and I can find what? 0. So the question is, what are the values here, right? So because you know, if you see, this is the first quadrant, this is second quadrant, third quadrant, and the fourth quadrant, right? So it's not necessary that you have to draw just one circle, right? You can make a lot of circle here. You can find a lot of values from -infinity to positive infinity, right? So here, so you can say sine x is equal to 0. I want to find out, means what value of x we plug in here, we can find out the value 0. Okay, so you must know the first value. Can everybody knows about the first value from 0 to 2 pi? As I told you, when x is 0, sine always 0. Okay, so everybody knows about it. Sine x is equal to the 0. You can say sine 0, right? Sine 0, right? Sine 0 is equal to 0. And this is sine x. So you can say here, this one is considered as alpha, right? So we have, sine alpha, where alpha is 0 degree, and this is sine x. So you know this one, sine x is equal to sine alpha. This is very important. Sine x is equal to sine alpha. Alpha is what? 0 degree here. So you can use this formula here. Okay. So I'm going to write down, this is what? Sine x. Sine x, I told you this formula there. So sine x is equal to sine alpha. So x is equal to what? N pi plus -1 power n. Alpha means 0, right? This is 0 degree, right? Okay. So so if you are going to multiply here, you can just write down in the radian mode, doesn't matter. Okay, 0 is nothing. So if 0 is multiplied by any number, right? So the answer is what? 0. So you can say we have x is equal to n pi plus -1 power n, and this is 0, so whole is 0, so x is equal to what? N pi plus 0 means x is equal to what? N pi. Now guys, you can see we got the formula x is equal to n pi, where n is what? N is integers. You can take positive integers, negative integers. So where n is what? N belongs to what? Integers. Okay, you can say integers means positive integers, negative integers, whatever you want, you just put it. Okay, so if I say, I'm going to give you an example here. If I say n is equal to what? Take n is equal to 1, so you have x is equal to what? 1 pi. 1 pi means what? Just pi. So you can say when x is equal to pi, when you put x is equal to pi, okay, the answer is 0. Means sine pi is 0. I can give you example here. So sine pi is equal to what? 0. If you say no, I want to take n is equal to 2, no problem, just take and put it here. You can find x is equal to what? 2 pi. So as when you put x is equal to what? 2 pi, answer again you have 0. You can say no, so I want to take 3, so n is equal to 3. So whenever you have this one, sine 3 pi, the answer is 0. Even you can say n is equal to 5 pi, 10 pi, 15 pi, 17 pi, all values is 0. So here if you are going to increase or decrease the value of n, you can take the positive value, you can take the negative value. In each and every cases you will find the sign has 0 value, right? So this I give you one example here. You can say sine minus pi is 0, sine minus 2 pi is 0, sine minus 3 pi is 0, right? Okay, now by that formula you can find the zeros, and then we'll solve the questions, right? So I don't think so that you will face the problem when we have a question involving trigonometric function, and in the question it is asked find the domain. Okay, so you can find the domain of a trigonometric function if you don't have the background, you don't know the proper information in trigonometric functions. Okay, so inshallah in my next lecture, okay, I will explain you how to find the domain of a function which involve trigonometric functions, right? But especially I said to you before, I will explain you every function in detail in each videos, right? So you will find a 10 or 15 questions, a complicated questions, the hard questions, but it will give you a knowledge, it will give you information, right? And we will find out the domain. I hope guys you all understand, and please watch my next video, because this next video will help you, will increase your level, and you will not face any problem in the global world. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.